Hello and welcome back, and today we're going to be doing something a little different. I have things in this room that range from being brand new to as old as 150 years, and I've always wondered, what would it have been like to actually live in the time periods and experience all these things as they were new? What would it have been like to experience all the advertisements, seeing these things for the first time, experiencing them with people who were just right there with you, who've never seen anything like it? So today, we're going to go back in time and find out. As our time machine settles, we find ourselves in the year 1890. 5-year-old me would be shocked to find that the world is actually in color. We find a newspaper to see that the date is July 30th. The headline reads, "Vincent van Gogh dies, age 37, yesterday." The next page talks about a global pandemic coming to an end. We're beginning a decade that was considered a happy decade for most, unless, of course, if you are a particular region of Indonesia that's currently being colonized by the Dutch. But lucky for us, we landed our time machine in America, where President Harrison decides to put an end to monopolies. No, not that kind, but I wish he would. So let's head out and find us some things to add to the big collection back home. The only problem is, well, it's 1890, and there's no cars. Unless you happen to be in Germany and you have yourself a Benz motor wagon. Yes, Benz. No Mercedes yet, actually. Although I guess the company technically was called Rheinische Gasmotorenfabrik Benz und Ski. But luckily for us, we now have a standard-shaped bicycle to ride. On our way into town, we find ourselves a toy store. In here, there are these new things called talking dolls. And well, they sound absolutely terrifying. Here, have a listen. They use a new wax cylinder sound recording technique that I'm sure has a better use. But maybe we'll sing that tune in a few years. Besides that nightmare, we have the classic toy that has been never forgotten. It's been beloved by all. The good old Hoop and Stick. Yeah, I'm starting to think we went back a little too far. So let's ride along and see what else we find. And well, outside of the basic necessities in general stores, not very much. We have magic lantern shows, which may sound pretty advanced for the time, but in reality, those have been around since the 1600s. These are essentially what a slide projector was later on, except they use a lantern as a light source. But we are now entering the electric age, where light bulbs are taking over, and they are being used in these magic lantern shows as a brighter experience. Some of these shows had a storyteller showing static images that they would put up on the screen, but sometimes they were even moving images. But they weren't really movies, just certain parts of the images might have rolled around a little bit. So, going past the Magic Lantern Theater, what do we have? Well, books. Books have been around forever. The oldest written story is about 4,100 years old at this point. Known as the Epic of Gilgamesh, this surviving book was found in Mesopotamia on a slab of clay. Now we have evolved from clay to using animal skins, to papyrus, and eventually we ended up on paper. And this paper was really the main source of entertainment outside of the world around you and the people that you met. So let's take a look at some books. So as you can see, life back in the 1890s was very different. In fact, I went and picked up some things while we were there, and even one of them was pretty used and pretty worn out. Now, this is the oldest thing that I have around here, and this is a book from 1872 called Sanders' Fifth Reader. Now, basically, this is a school book that would have been given out probably in the 5th year of school. I don't know if they would have called it 5th grade, and you would have done schoolwork, read some stories, learned some things, and you could even have gotten a reward of merit. Yes, this was in this book, a reward of merit given to this student from their teacher. Now, there's nothing overly interesting in this book as far as what I wanted to read. There's a story called What is Patriotism? There's one called The Age Indian's Lament, and there's things about like the destruction of Pompeii. It's a school book with some questionable stories in it. But I actually have a storybook from a similar time period. Now this one here was printed 3 times. The original was 1890, then 1896, and then 1898. This version is from 1898, and this is called Riley Child Rhymes and Hoosier Pictures. Now, what is a Hoosier picture, you ask? I just guess it's the art style of the drawings. They're pretty much, for the most part, just ink outlines. There is some color, like this one here where it says illustrations. It's actually painted out in red, or, printed in red. Pretty impressive. And this one's in pretty good shape. Now, this is just full of little bitty rhymes and stories that, you would have just read in the time period. And I found a very interesting one that does not include any racial slurs, so we're going to go with this one, although it's still questionable if I should read this one out loud. And it's called The Happy Little Cripple. Now, the thing with this book is it's written, and the only way I can describe it as the South. So it's written with, if you read this in with like a Southern accent, because it's all, these aren't words. That's all I can say. These are not words. These are like interpretations of what words sound like. I don't see how this helped anyone read. But here we go. The Happy Little Cripple. 'Cause if my good old auntie ever were to get sick and die, I don't know what she'd do in heaven till I come by and by. For she's so used to all my ways and everything, and there's no one like me to nuss and worry so. 'Cause all the little children's there so straight and strong and fine, there's nary an angel about the place with the curvature of the spine. Yeah, that's what this book pretty much is. A bunch of stories like that. There is all kinds of interesting ones. The 9 Little Goblins is in here. Who Santa Claus was is in here. You can get the idea of where this is going. So yes, the 1890s was mostly just filled with books and the invention of the first cars ever. But I hear that somewhere, I think in France, there's this new motion picture thing that's starting up. And maybe next time we'll go into the future just a little bit more and take a look at these silent moving images. Until next time, on the GenTen Time Machine.